Here's something nobody tells you about artificial intelligence. You're probably using it completely wrong. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean it literally. The overwhelming majority of people who interact with AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or any of the dozens of other platforms out there are getting a fraction of the value they could be getting. They're frustrated, disappointed, and increasingly skeptical about whether AI is actually useful at all. And the tragic part? It's not the AI's fault. It's how we're approaching it. Think about the last time you used an AI tool. Maybe you asked it a quick question, got an answer that was sort of helpful, but not quite what you needed, and then moved on with your day. Or maybe you tried to get it to write something for you, and the result was so generic and robotic that you spent more time rewriting it than if you'd just done it yourself from scratch. Sound familiar? You're not alone. This is the experience of millions of people every single day. But here's what's interesting. There's a small group of people who are getting extraordinary results from these same tools. People who are 10x more productive, who are producing better work faster, who have fundamentally transformed how they approach their professional lives. And the difference between them and everyone else isn't access to better AI tools or some secret prompting technique. It's something much more fundamental. It's their entire mindset and approach. Before we go any further, if you're serious about mastering AI and want to learn the frameworks that actually work, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. This video is part 1 of a complete system that will transform how you work with AI, and you won't want to miss the rest of the series. So what's the core problem? Most people treat AI like a toy instead of a tool. Let me explain what I mean by that. When something is a toy, you play with it casually. You pick it up when you're bored. You experiment without any real goal. You don't think about it strategically. And you certainly don't develop systematic approaches to using it better. It's entertainment, not utility. And that's exactly how most people interact with AI. They open up ChatGPT when they have a random question, type in whatever comes to mind, take the first response at face value, and then close the window. It's casual, it's spontaneous, it's unstructured. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with casual usage. If you want to ask AI what dinosaur would win in a fight, or to write you a funny poem about your cat, go for it. That's perfectly fine recreational use. But if you're trying to use AI to actually improve your work, to make yourself more productive, to enhance the quality of what you produce, this casual approach is actively working against you. Here's why casual usage fails. First, it lacks clear intent. When you don't have a specific, well-defined goal, the AI has to guess what you actually want. And its guesses will often miss the mark because it doesn't understand the context you're working in, the standards you're trying to meet, or the constraints you're operating under. The result? Generic outputs that don't quite fit your needs. Second, casual usage leads to accepting first draft thinking. The first response from an AI is rarely the best response. It's an initial attempt based on a probably incomplete understanding of your request. But most people take that first response, decide it's good enough, and move on. They never iterate, never refine, never push the conversation toward better outputs. They're settling for mediocrity because they haven't invested enough in the process to get excellence. Third, casual usage creates inconsistent results. One day you get something useful, the next day something completely useless, and you have no idea why. That's because you're not controlling the variables. You're not being systematic.
You're just hoping that whatever you type will magically produce what you need.
That's not how professional tools work. And fourth,
casual usage leads to wasted time. You might think you're saving time by quickly firing off prompts, but when the outputs don't meet your needs, you end up spending more time fixing, rewriting, or simply doing it yourself from scratch. The apparent efficiency is an illusion. Now contrast this with how professionals use AI. And when I say professionals, I don't mean people who work with AI for a living. I mean professionals in any field who have learned to leverage AI effectively as part of their work. These are marketers, writers, analysts, developers, designers, researchers, consultants, strategists, people doing real work who have figured out how to make AI genuinely useful. What do these people do differently? 3 fundamental things: structure, intent, and defined outcomes. Structure means they have systematic approaches. They don't just randomly prompt. They have frameworks, templates, and processes that they apply consistently. They know what works and they repeat it. They treat AI interaction as a skill that can be developed and refined, not just something you wing every time. Intent means they know exactly what they're trying to achieve before they start. They're not exploring aimlessly. They have a clear goal, they understand what success looks like, and they can articulate it precisely. This clarity allows the AI to actually help them because it knows what target to aim for. Defined outcomes means they have specific expectations for what they want to receive. They're not hoping for magic. They know what format they need, what level of detail is appropriate, what tone is right, what information must be included, and what can be left out. They're directing the process, not passively receiving whatever the AI decides to give them. When you combine these 3 elements, structure, intent, and defined outcomes, something remarkable happens. The AI transforms from an occasionally helpful toy into a genuinely powerful tool. The outputs become consistent. The quality improves dramatically. The time investment starts paying real dividends. You stop fighting with the technology and start collaborating with it effectively. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you need to write a business email to a client about a project delay. The casual approach would be open ChatGPT, type, write an email about a project delay, copy whatever it produces, maybe change a few words, and send it. The result? Probably a generic, overly formal email that doesn't quite match your voice and doesn't address the specific concerns your client actually has. The professional approach would be completely different. First, you'd clarify your intent. I need to inform the client about a delay while maintaining trust, explaining the reasons clearly, providing a new timeline, and offering solutions to minimize impact. Then you'd define the outcome. A 200-word email in a professional but warm tone that acknowledges responsibility, explains the technical issue that caused the delay in understandable terms, provides a specific new delivery date, and offers an additional deliverable as compensation. Finally, you'd structure your prompt to include all of this information clearly. The difference in results is night and day. The professional approach produces an email that actually works, that sounds like you, that addresses the real situation, and that maintains the client relationship. The casual approach produces something you'll probably have to rewrite anyway. This pattern repeats across every single use case. Whether you're asking for analysis, generating ideas, drafting content, debugging code, planning strategy, or doing research, the professional approach with structure, intent, and defined outcomes will always outperform the casual approach. But here's the thing that stops most people from making this shift. It requires more upfront thought. You can't just fire off a quick prompt and hope for the best. You have to actually think about what you're trying to accomplish. You have to invest time in setting up the interaction properly. And in our instant gratification culture, that feels like friction. It feels like extra work. But here's what I've learned after hundreds of hours working with AI professionally. That upfront investment pays for itself many times over. The 5 minutes you spend clarifying your goals and structuring your prompt saves you 30 minutes of iteration and revision. The discipline of defining outcomes before you start means you get usable results on the first or second try instead of the fifth or sixth. The systematic approach means you're not reinventing the wheel every time. Think of it like cooking. A casual approach to cooking is opening the fridge, grabbing random ingredients, throwing them together, and hoping it tastes good. Sometimes you get lucky, usually you don't. A professional approach to cooking is deciding what you want to make, checking what ingredients you need, following a recipe or technique you know works, tasting and adjusting as you go, and consistently producing good results. Same kitchen, same ingredients, completely different process and outcomes. AI is no different. The tools are available to everyone. The difference between disappointing results and transformative results is entirely in how you approach the process. So if you've been frustrated with AI, if you've tried it and decided it wasn't that useful, if you're skeptical about all the hype, I want you to consider this. Maybe you were using it wrong. Not because you're not smart enough or technical enough, but simply because you were approaching it casually instead of professionally. And that's completely fixable. The rest of this series is going to show you exactly how to make that shift. We're going to break down the specific frameworks, techniques, and approaches that professionals use to get consistently excellent results from AI. We're going to turn you from a casual user into a power user. And the best part? It's not actually that complicated once you understand the principles. But it all starts here, with this fundamental mindset shift. Stop treating AI like a toy and start treating it like a tool. Stop hoping for magic and start engineering for results. Stop being casual and start being intentional. That's the difference that makes all the difference. And that's what separates the people who get value from AI from the people who don't. Professional AI Usage, the Complete Guide, Video Script. Chapter 1. Why most people use AI wrong. Here's something nobody tells you about artificial intelligence. You're probably using it completely wrong. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean it literally. The overwhelming majority of people who interact with AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or any of the dozens of other platforms out there are getting a fraction of the value they could be getting. They're frustrated, disappointed, and increasingly skeptical about whether AI is actually useful at all. And the tragic part? It's not the AI's fault. It's how we're approaching it. Think about the last time you used an AI tool. Maybe you asked it a quick question, got an answer that was sort of helpful, but not quite what you needed, and then moved on with your day. Or maybe you tried to get it to write something for you, and the result was so generic and robotic that you spent more time rewriting it than if you'd just done it yourself from scratch. Sound familiar? You're not alone. This is the experience of millions of people every single day. But here's what's interesting. There's a small group of people who are getting extraordinary results from these same tools. People who are 10x more productive, who are producing better work faster, who have fundamentally transformed how they approach their professional lives. And the difference between them and everyone else isn't access to better AI tools or some secret prompting technique. It's something much more fundamental. It's their entire mindset and approach. Before we go any further, If you're serious about mastering AI and want to learn the frameworks that actually work, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. This video is part 1 of a complete system that will transform how you work with AI, and you won't want to miss the rest of the series. So what's the core problem? Most people treat AI like a toy instead of a tool. Let me explain what I mean by that. When something is a toy, you play with it casually. You pick it up when you're bored. You experiment without any real goal. You don't think about it strategically, and you certainly don't develop systematic approaches to using it better. It's entertainment, not utility. And that's exactly how most people interact with AI. They open up ChatGPT when they have a random question, type in whatever comes to mind, take the first response at face value, and then close the window. It's casual, it's spontaneous, it's unstructured. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with casual usage. If you want to ask AI what dinosaur would win in a fight, or to write you a funny poem about your cat, go for it. That's perfectly fine recreational use. But if you're trying to use AI to actually improve your work, to make yourself more productive, to enhance the quality of what you produce, this casual approach is actively working against you. Here's why casual usage fails. First, it lacks clear intent. When you don't have a specific, well-defined goal, the AI has to guess what you actually want. And its guesses will often miss the mark because it doesn't understand the context you're working in, the standards you're trying to meet, or the constraints you're operating under. The result? Generic outputs that don't quite fit your needs. Second, casual usage leads to accepting first draft thinking. The first response from an AI is rarely the best response. It's an initial attempt based on a probably incomplete understanding of your request. But most people take that first response, decide it's good enough, and move on. They never iterate, never refine, never push the conversation toward better outputs. They're settling for mediocrity because they haven't invested enough in the process to get excellence. Third, casual usage creates inconsistent results. One day you get something useful, the next day something completely useless, and you have no idea why. That's because you're not controlling the variables. You're not being systematic. You're just hoping that whatever you type will magically produce what you need. That's not how professional tools work. And fourth, casual usage leads to wasted time. You might think you're saving time by quickly firing off prompts, but when the outputs don't meet your needs, you end up spending more time fixing, rewriting, or simply doing it yourself from scratch. The apparent efficiency is an illusion. Now contrast this with how professionals use AI. And when I say professionals, I don't mean people who work with AI for a living. I mean professionals in any field who have learned to leverage AI effectively as part of their work. These are marketers, writers, analysts, developers, designers, researchers, consultants, strategists, people doing real work who have figured out how to make AI genuinely useful. What do these people do differently? 3 fundamental things: structure, intent, and defined outcomes. Structure means they have systematic approaches. They don't just randomly prompt. They have frameworks, templates, and processes that they apply consistently. They know what works and they repeat it. They treat AI interaction as a skill that can be developed and refined, not just something you wing every time. Intent means they know exactly what they're trying to achieve before they start. They're not exploring aimlessly. They have a clear goal. They understand what success looks like, and they can articulate it precisely. This clarity allows the AI to actually help them because it knows what target to aim for. Defined outcomes means they have specific expectations for what they want to receive. They're not hoping for magic. They know what format they need, what level of detail is appropriate, what tone is right, what information must be included, and what can be left out. They're directing the process, not passively receiving whatever the AI decides to give them. When you combine these three elements, structure, intent, and defined outcomes, something remarkable happens. The AI transforms from an occasionally helpful toy into a genuinely powerful tool. The outputs become consistent. The quality improves dramatically. The time investment starts paying real dividends. You stop fighting with the technology and start collaborating with it effectively. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you need to write a business email to a client about a project delay. The casual approach would be open ChatGPT, type "write an email about a project delay," copy whatever it produces, maybe change a few words, and send it. The result? Probably a generic, overly formal email that doesn't quite match your voice and doesn't address the specific concerns your client actually has. The professional approach would be completely different. First, you'd clarify your intent. I need to inform the client about a delay while maintaining trust, explaining the reasons clearly, providing a new timeline, and offering solutions to minimize impact. Then, you define the outcome. A 200-word email in a professional but warm tone that acknowledges responsibility, explains the technical issue that caused the delay in understandable terms, provides a specific new delivery date, and offers an additional deliverable as compensation. Finally, you'd structure your prompt to include all of this information clearly. The difference in results is night and day. The professional approach produces an email that actually works, that sounds like you, that addresses the real situation, and that maintains the client relationship. The casual approach produces something you'll probably have to rewrite anyway. This pattern repeats across every single use case. Whether you're asking for analysis, generating ideas, drafting content, debugging code, planning strategy, or doing research, the professional approach with structure, intent, and defined outcomes will always outperform the casual approach. But here's the thing that stops most people from making this shift. It requires more upfront thought. You can't just fire off a quick prompt and hope for the best. You have to actually think about what you're trying to accomplish. You have to invest time in setting up the interaction properly. And in our instant gratification culture, that feels like friction. It feels like extra work. But here's what I've learned after hundreds of hours working with AI professionally. That upfront investment pays for itself many times over. The 5 minutes you spend clarifying your goals and structuring your prompt saves you 30 minutes of iteration and revision. The discipline of defining outcomes before you start means you get usable results on the first or second try instead of the fifth or sixth. The systematic approach means you're not reinventing the wheel every time. Think of it like cooking. A casual approach to cooking is opening the fridge, grabbing random ingredients, throwing them together, and hoping it tastes good. Sometimes you get lucky, usually you don't. A professional approach to cooking is deciding what you want to make, checking what ingredients you need, following a recipe or technique you know works, tasting and adjusting as you go, and consistently producing good results. Same kitchen, same ingredients, completely different process and outcomes. AI is no different. The tools are available to everyone. The difference between disappointing results and transformative results is entirely in how you approach the process. So if you've been frustrated with AI, if you've tried it and decided it wasn't that useful, if you're skeptical about all the hype, I want you to consider this. Maybe you were using it wrong, not because you're not smart enough or technical enough, but simply because you were approaching it casually instead of professionally. And that's completely fixable. The rest of this series is going to show you exactly how to make that shift. We're going to break down the specific frameworks, techniques, and approaches that professionals use to get consistently excellent results from AI. We're going to turn you from a casual user into a power user. And the best part? It's not actually that complicated once you understand the principles. But it all starts here, with this fundamental mindset shift. Stop treating AI like a toy and start treating it like a tool. Stop hoping for magic and start engineering for results. Stop being casual and start being intentional. That's the difference that makes all the difference. And that's what separates the people who get value from AI from the people who don't. Chapter 2. AI as a daily work companion. Now that we understand why most people use AI wrong, let's talk about what right looks like in practice. And the single most important pattern I've observed among people who get extraordinary results from AI is this. They use it daily, not occasionally. This might sound obvious, but it's actually a profound insight that most people miss. The difference between occasional use and daily use isn't just quantitative, it's qualitative. It fundamentally changes what AI can do for you and how you think about your work. Here's what I mean. When you use AI occasionally, it remains external to your workflow. It's something you turn to when you're stuck, or when you have a specific task that you think AI might help with. You maintain your normal way of working, and AI is just an occasional supplement. It's like having a consultant you call in for special projects, but who isn't part of your team. But when you use AI daily, it becomes integrated into your workflow. It stops being something separate and becomes part of how you think, plan, execute, and review your work. It's like having a colleague who sits next to you and who you naturally collaborate with throughout the day. The relationship is fundamentally different. So what does daily AI use actually look like? Let me walk you through how professionals integrate AI into their routine from the moment they start working to the moment they finish. Many people start their workday already behind. They open their computer to dozens of emails, multiple Slack channels with unread messages, a calendar full of meetings, and a vague sense of tasks that need to get done. The first hour of the day is often spent in reactive mode, responding to whatever seems most urgent, trying to remember what's actually important, and feeling increasingly overwhelmed by the sheer volume of everything demanding attention. Professionals who use AI daily start completely differently. Their first interaction isn't with email or Slack, it's with AI. They use it to plan their day strategically before diving into execution mode. Here's what that looks like in practice. They open their AI tool and have a structured conversation about the day ahead. They might share their calendar, list their key projects, mention any deadlines or commitments, and describe their current priorities. Then they ask the AI to help them create a structured plan for the day that accounts for their energy levels, meeting schedule, and the actual time available for focused work. The AI helps them identify what's truly important versus what's just urgent. It helps them spot scheduling conflicts or unrealistic expectations about what can be accomplished. It helps them sequence tasks in a logical order, and most importantly, it helps them be intentional about their time before they get pulled into the reactive chaos of the workday. This isn't about letting AI decide your priorities. You're still the decision maker. It's about having an intelligent sounding board that helps you think through your day more systematically than you might on your own. especially when you're tired or overwhelmed. Once the day is planned, AI continues as a companion throughout execution. Let's say you need to write a report. Instead of staring at a blank page trying to figure out where to start, you have a conversation with AI about the report's purpose, audience, and key messages. You might ask it to help you create an outline, or to draft certain sections while you focus on others, or to help you refine your thinking on complex points. The key here is that you're not asking AI to write the report for you. You're using it to accelerate and enhance your own work. You're still the author, the expert, the person with judgment and context. But AI is helping you organize your thoughts, explore different angles, and produce better work faster. Or let's say you're in a meeting and someone mentions a concept you're not familiar with. In the old days, you'd either have to interrupt and ask, pretend you understand, or make a note to look it up later. Now, you can quietly ask AI to explain the concept while the meeting continues, staying fully engaged without missing a beat. Or you're analyzing data and trying to identify patterns. Instead of manually sorting through spreadsheets, you can describe what you're looking for to AI and ask it to suggest analytical approaches or help you spot insights you might have missed. Or you're preparing for a difficult conversation with a colleague. You can role-play the conversation with AI, testing different approaches and getting feedback on how your messages might be received, building confidence before the real interaction. The pattern across all these examples is the same. AI is woven into the fabric of your work, not bolted on as an afterthought. It's a continuous presence that you interact with naturally throughout your day. Just like you might turn to a knowledgeable colleague for quick input or feedback. Now, here's what makes this daily integration so powerful. You start developing intuition for when and how to use AI most effectively. Just like you know which colleague to ask about finance questions versus technical questions, you start knowing which types of tasks are best suited for AI assistance, which require human judgment, and which benefit from a combination of both. You also start building a working relationship with AI that improves over time. You learn how to communicate your needs more effectively. You develop your own shortcuts and templates for common tasks. You start recognizing patterns in what works and what doesn't. This accumulated experience makes you exponentially more efficient than someone who only uses AI occasionally. Let me give you a specific example from my own work. I write a lot: reports, articles, emails, documentation. In my casual AI days, I might occasionally ask ChatGPT to help me rephrase a sentence or generate ideas. It was mildly helpful, but not transformative. Now, writing with daily AI integration looks completely different. When I start a new piece, I have a conversation with AI about the purpose, audience, key messages, and structure. I ask it to challenge my thinking and suggest angles I haven't considered. As I write, I'll paste sections and ask for feedback on clarity, flow, or persuasiveness. When I'm stuck on how to explain a complex idea, I'll describe it to AI and ask for metaphors or examples that might make it clearer. When I'm done, I'll ask it to read through the entire piece and identify weaknesses, inconsistencies, or areas that need more support. This process doesn't make me a worse writer, it makes me a better one. I'm still doing all the real thinking and writing, but AI is helping me be more thorough, more clear, and more effective. And because this is my daily process, I've gotten fast at it. What used to take me 8 hours now takes me 4, and the quality is higher. The same pattern applies to any knowledge work. Daily integration means AI becomes part of your cognitive toolkit, extending your capabilities in the same way that a calculator extends your mathematical capabilities, or a search engine extends your memory. But daily integration isn't just about productivity. It's also about reducing cognitive load. Our brains have limited working memory and attention. Every decision, task, and piece of information we have to hold in our heads uses up some of that limited capacity. By the end of a busy workday, we're mentally exhausted, not just from doing hard work, but from managing all the complexity. AI can help carry some of that cognitive load. It can remember things for you, organize information, track details, and handle routine mental tasks so your brain is free to focus on what actually requires human judgment and creativity. It's like having an external hard drive for your working memory. For example, if you're managing a complex project with multiple work streams, dozens of tasks, and various stakeholders, keeping track of everything is mentally exhausting. But if you use AI daily to help organize and synthesize all that information, asking it to summarize progress, identify blockers, and suggest next steps, you free up mental energy to focus on solving problems and making decisions rather than just tracking everything. Or, if you're in a role that requires constant context switching, responding to emails, attending meetings, working on projects, putting out fires, the cognitive cost of switching contexts can be enormous. AI can help by quickly bringing you up to speed when you return to a task. Instead of spending 10 minutes remembering where you were and what you were thinking, you can ask AI to summarize your previous work and suggest where to continue. This reduction in cognitive load is one of the most underrated benefits of daily AI use. It's not just that you get more done, it's that you end the day less mentally drained, with more energy for other parts of your life. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds like I'd be constantly switching to AI, which would actually be more disruptive than helpful. And that's a fair concern. If you're interrupting your flow state every 5 minutes to have long conversations with AI, you're doing it wrong. The key is developing the right cadence and pattern for when to engage AI. Generally, professionals use AI heavily at 3 specific points: planning, at the beginning of tasks or the day; checkpoints, at natural breaks or decision points; and review, at the end of tasks or the day. During actual focused work time, they stay in flow and execute without interruption. Think of it like working with a skilled colleague. You don't consult them about every single tiny decision, but you do touch base before starting something new, check in when you hit a decision point or obstacle, and debrief when you finish to capture lessons learned. That's the rhythm of effective AI integration. The other key is building efficiency into your AI interactions. As you use AI daily, you develop shortcuts. You save effective prompts as templates. You know exactly how to phrase requests to get what you need quickly. Your interactions become shorter and more targeted because you've learned what works. What might take a casual user 10 minutes of back and forth takes you 30 seconds because you've built the skill. Here's the bottom line. AI becomes truly powerful when it shifts from being an occasional tool you use for specific tasks to being a daily companion that's integrated into how you work. This isn't about AI doing your job for you. It's about AI helping you do your job better, with more clarity, less stress, higher quality, and greater efficiency. The professionals who are 10x more productive with AI aren't using different tools or secret techniques. They've simply made AI part of their daily rhythm. They've integrated it into their workflow so thoroughly that they don't even think about it as a separate thing anymore. It's just how they work now. And that's the shift we want you to make. Not occasional use when you remember or when you're desperate. Daily integration that compounds into transformative results over time.
We've talked about the importance of treating AI professionally and integrating it into your daily workflow. Now we need to address the single biggest determinant of whether you get good results or garbage. What you do before you even type your first word into the AI. Most people approach prompting backwards. They sit down at their keyboard, start typing whatever comes to mind, hit enter, and hope for the best. Then they're disappointed when the output isn't what they wanted, so they try again with a slightly different prompt. Still not quite right. They try a third time, maybe a fourth. They're iterating, but they're iterating blindly because they never clarified what they were actually trying to achieve in the first place. This is like setting out on a road trip without a destination. You can drive around adjusting your route all you want, but if you don't know where you're going, you'll never know if you're getting closer or further away. Professional AI users do something completely different. They think before they prompt. They invest time up front in clarifying exactly what they want before they start interacting with the AI. And this pre-prompting thinking process is what separates good results from great results. So what does thinking before prompting actually involve? 3 essential elements: clarifying goals, defining constraints, and establishing context. Let's start with clarifying goals. This sounds simple, but most people skip it entirely or do it poorly. They have a vague sense of what they want. I need help with a presentation, or I need to write an email, or I need to analyze this data. But they haven't thought through what success actually looks like. A clear goal isn't just identifying the task. It's identifying the specific outcome you need, why you need it, and what it needs to accomplish. It's the difference between I need to write an email and I need to write a 150-word email to my manager that explains why the project is behind schedule, takes appropriate responsibility without being overly apologetic, provides a realistic new timeline, and requests additional resources in a way that's justified and reasonable. Notice how much more information is in the second version. That clarity gives AI something concrete to work toward. Without it, AI has to guess at your intent, and its guesses will often be wrong. Here's a framework I use for clarifying goals before any significant AI interaction. I ask myself 4 questions. First, what exactly am I trying to create or accomplish? Be specific. Not a report, but a 5-page report that synthesizes research findings into 3 actionable recommendations for our marketing strategy. Second, who is this for and what do they care about? Understanding your audience shapes everything. An email to your CEO needs different content and tone than an email to a teammate. A presentation to technical experts needs different depth than a presentation to non-technical stakeholders. Third, what does success look like? How will I know if this is good enough? What are the quality standards or criteria I'm trying to meet? This helps you evaluate AI outputs objectively, rather than just having a vague feeling about whether something is good or not. Fourth, what's the most important thing this needs to accomplish? If you could only get one thing right, what would it be? This helps you prioritize when you can't get everything perfect. Answering these 4 questions takes maybe 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes transform your AI interactions because now you have a clear target to aim for. You can communicate that target to AI effectively, and you can evaluate whether the outputs are hitting that target or missing it. The second element of thinking before prompting is defining constraints. Constraints are the limitations, requirements, and boundaries that shape what's acceptable. They're just as important as goals, but people forget to specify them because they're obvious in their own heads. Common constraints include length limits, tone requirements, formatting needs, technical level, required elements that must be included, prohibited elements that must be avoided, time or resource limitations, and style guidelines. For example, if you're asking AI to help you draft a blog post, relevant constraints might include maximum 1,500 words, conversational but professional tone, must include 3 specific examples from recent company projects, avoid jargon that our customer base wouldn't understand, needs to be scannable with clear headers and short paragraphs, and must align with our brand voice guidelines. Without specifying these constraints, AI will make its own assumptions, and they'll often be wrong for your context. It might write something too long, too formal, too technical, or just not quite right for your needs. Then you have to spend time revising, or worse, you accept output that doesn't actually meet your real requirements. The key is to externalize what's in your head. Don't assume AI knows the constraints you're working within. State them explicitly so AI can work within those boundaries from the start. Here's a useful exercise. Before prompting AI on any significant task, write down 3 to 5 constraints that matter for this specific output. What are the rules, limitations, or requirements that the output needs to respect? This doesn't have to be elaborate, just bullet points capturing the key boundaries. The third element of thinking before prompting is establishing context. Context is all the background information, situational factors, and relevant details that affect what good output looks like. It's the stuff that's obvious to you because you live in your work environment and understand your situation, but that AI has no way of knowing unless you tell it. Poor context leads to generic outputs. Rich context leads to tailored, relevant outputs that actually fit your situation. Let me give you an example. Say you need help preparing for a difficult conversation with an underperforming team member. You could just prompt, "Help me prepare for a conversation with an underperforming employee." But AI has no idea who this person is, what they're struggling with, what your relationship is like, what you've already tried, what your company culture is like, or what outcome you're hoping for. So it will give you generic advice that might be technically correct, but isn't actually useful for your specific situation. Now imagine you provide context. I manage a small engineering team at a startup. One of our mid-level developers has been with us for 2 years and was performing well until 3 months ago. Since then, they've missed deadlines, code quality has declined, and they seem disengaged in meetings. We've had one informal conversation where they mentioned being overwhelmed, but didn't want to go into detail. Our company culture values direct feedback and growth, but I want to be supportive, not punitive. I'm hoping this conversation helps us understand what's wrong and create a concrete plan to get them back on track. I want to balance being empathetic with being clear about performance expectations. Now, AI can give you actually relevant advice. It understands the situation, the history, the relationship, the culture, and the intended outcome. The guidance it provides will be tailored to your specific circumstances rather than generic best practices that may or may not apply. The same principle applies to any task. Writing, coding, analysis, design, strategy. Context always improves outputs. And thinking through what context is relevant before you prompt means you can provide that context up front rather than having to go back and add it through multiple iterations. So how do you identify relevant context? Ask yourself, what does AI need to know about my situation, environment, or background to give me actually useful help rather than generic advice? What assumptions might AI make that would be wrong for my context? What details would a human colleague need to know to help me effectively? Common categories of useful context include your role and responsibilities, your audience or stakeholders, and what they care about,
relevant history or background of the situation, constraints or limitations you're working within, what you've already tried or know, company culture or industry norms that apply, and specific challenges or complications that make this situation non-standard. You don't need to write an essay, but taking a minute to identify the 3 to 5 most important contextual factors and including them in your prompt makes an enormous difference in output quality. Now here's what I want you to understand about this pre-prompting thinking process. It's not extra work that slows you down. It's essential work that speeds you up. The 2 to 5 minutes you spend clarifying goals, defining constraints, and establishing context saves you 20 to 30 minutes of iteration and revision. I see this pattern constantly. Someone spends 30 seconds writing a vague prompt, gets a mediocre result, tries again with a slightly different approach, still not quite right, tries a third time, eventually gives up and just writes it themselves. Total time, 45 minutes of frustration. Compare that to spending 3 minutes thinking through goals, constraints, and context, writing a clear prompt with all that information, getting a solid result on the first try, making 1 round of minor refinements. Done. Total time, 15 minutes with better results. The professional approach is actually faster because it reduces wasted iteration. It front-loads the thinking that needs to happen anyway, but does it strategically rather than through trial and error. Think about it like building something physical. You wouldn't start hammering wood together without a plan and then just keep adjusting until it looked right. You'd think through what you're building, sketch it out, measure things, and then build it correctly the first time. AI is no different. Planning before execution always beats hoping for the best. This principle applies across every use case. Whether you're writing, coding, analyzing, designing, or strategizing, the same pattern holds. Think before you prompt, clarify before you create, plan before you execute. For writing tasks, what's the purpose, audience, key message, tone, length, and required elements? What context affects how this should be written? For coding tasks, what problem are you solving? What are the input and output requirements? What language and frameworks are you using? What performance or style constraints matter? What edge cases need handling? For analytical tasks, what question are you trying to answer? What data is available? What would constitute a meaningful insight? What decisions will this analysis inform? What level of rigor is required? For design tasks, what problem is the design solving? Who's the user? What are the functional requirements? What constraints exist? Technical, brand, resource. What does good design look like in this context? The specific questions vary by domain, but the principle is universal. Clarify the target before you start shooting at it. One final point about thinking before prompting. This isn't about creating perfect prompts. It's about creating clear prompts. You don't need to anticipate every detail or write a novel. You just need to provide enough clarity that AI understands what you're trying to accomplish and can make good decisions about how to help you. Think of it as giving instructions to a smart but inexperienced colleague. They have capabilities, but they need direction. They can fill in details, but they need you to set the direction and provide key context. They can suggest options, but they need you to define the constraints and goals. That's the relationship you're building with AI. You're the expert with judgment, context, and goals. AI is the capable assistant that needs clear direction to be effective. The clearer your direction, which comes from thinking before prompting, the better the results you'll get. So here's your new workflow for any significant AI task. Before you type anything, pause. Take 2 to 5 minutes to think through your goals, constraints, and context. Write them down if helpful. Then craft your prompt with all that clarity baked in. Execute. Evaluate against your clear success criteria. Refine once if needed. This simple process, Think, clarify, prompt, evaluate, refine will transform your results. It's the difference between hoping for good outputs and engineering for good outputs. It's the difference between frustration and effectiveness. It's the difference between treating AI like a magic 8-ball and treating it like a professional tool. And that's where real results come from. Not from fancy prompting tricks or secret techniques, but from clear thinking before you ever type a word. Let's talk about one of the most transformative applications of AI in professional work: research and analysis. And I need to be clear about something right from the start. When I say AI dramatically speeds up research, I'm not talking about replacing actual research with AI-generated summaries. I'm talking about something far more sophisticated and valuable. Here's the problem most professionals face with research. There's too much information and too little time. You need to understand a complex topic, evaluate different options, analyze trade-offs, or extract insights from a mountain of data. The traditional approach means hours or days of reading, note-taking, comparing, synthesizing, and trying to hold everything in your head simultaneously. It's exhausting, time-consuming, and often incomplete because you simply can't process everything that's relevant. AI doesn't replace this process. It accelerates and enhances it. And the professionals who understand this distinction are the ones getting extraordinary results. So let's break down how this actually works in practice, starting with one of the most common research scenarios: trying to understand a complex topic quickly. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone mentions a concept, framework, or technology you're not deeply familiar with. Maybe it's a new regulatory framework affecting your industry, a technical approach your team is considering, or a market trend everyone seems to be talking about. You need to get up to speed fast, but you don't have time to read 3 textbooks and a dozen articles. The old approach would be Googling, clicking through search results, skimming articles of varying quality, trying to piece together a coherent understanding from fragmented sources, and hoping you're not missing something important. This might take an hour or two, and you'd still feel somewhat uncertain about whether you really understand it. The AI-enhanced approach is completely different. You start with a focused conversation with AI where you describe what you need to understand and why. You're not asking it to just explain the topic. You're asking it to help you build a mental model tailored to your specific needs. Here's what that looks like. You might say, I need to understand Zero Trust security architecture. I'm a product manager, not a security engineer, so I need to understand the key concepts and implications without getting lost in technical implementation details. I need to know how it differs from traditional security models, why companies are adopting it, what the main trade-offs are, and what questions I should be asking our engineering team as we consider implementing it. Notice how much structure is in that request. You've specified your role and knowledge level, your purpose for learning, the depth you need, and the specific angles that matter to you. This allows AI to tailor its explanation to actually be useful, rather than giving you either an oversimplified overview or a technical deep dive you can't follow. AI then provides a structured explanation designed for your needs. But here's where it gets really powerful. You can have a conversation. When something isn't clear, you ask follow-up questions. When you need an analogy to understand a complex concept, you request one. When you want to understand how this relates to something you already know, you make that connection explicit. This interactive learning is far more efficient than reading static articles because you're directing the learning process toward exactly what you need to understand. You're not wading through information that's too basic or too advanced. You're not wondering if there's something important you're missing. You're building understanding systematically and efficiently. But understanding a topic is just the beginning. Let's talk about comparative research, evaluating different options or approaches. Say you're trying to decide between different software platforms for your team, or different strategic approaches for a project, or different vendors for a service. The traditional research process means creating spreadsheets, comparing features, reading reviews, trying to keep track of all the variables, and often feeling overwhelmed by the sheer number of factors to consider. AI can dramatically streamline this process, but only if you use it correctly. The key is structuring your comparison request with clear criteria. Here's an example. Instead of asking, "What's the best project management tool?" professionals ask something like, "I need to evaluate Asana, Monday, and ClickUp for a 20-person marketing team." Our key requirements are integration with Slack and Google Workspace, budget under $15 per user per month, strong template capabilities because we run similar campaigns repeatedly, good reporting for tracking campaign metrics, and ease of use for non-technical team members. Can you compare these three options across these specific criteria and identify which has the strongest and weakest performance in each area? Now, AI can give you a structured comparison that's actually useful. It can identify clear differences, highlight trade-offs, and point out factors you might not have considered. You're not outsourcing the decision. You're still the one who needs to weigh these factors based on your team's specific needs, but you're accelerating the information gathering and analysis phase dramatically. The same approach works for analyzing trade-offs, which is one of the most mentally demanding aspects of professional decision-making. Every significant decision involves trade-offs: speed versus quality, cost versus capability, simplicity versus flexibility. Mapping out these trade-offs thoroughly requires holding multiple variables in your head simultaneously, which is cognitively exhausting. AI can help you map trade-off spaces systematically. You describe the decision you're facing and the key dimensions of the trade-off, and AI helps you think through the implications of different choices. It can identify second-order effects you might not have considered, point out hidden costs or benefits, and structure the trade-off analysis in a way that makes the decision clearer. For example, you might be deciding whether to launch a new product feature quickly with limited functionality, or wait to launch with a more complete feature set. You could have a conversation with AI that explores: what are the competitive implications of each approach? What does this mean for user adoption and satisfaction? How does this affect technical debt and future development flexibility? What resources does each path require? What are the risks if we get this decision wrong? AI doesn't make the decision for you. It helps you think through the decision more thoroughly than you might on your own, especially when you're tired or under time pressure. Now let's talk about one of the most valuable applications of AI in research: extracting insights from large amounts of information. Professionals often face situations where they have more information than they can reasonably process. Maybe it's customer feedback from hundreds of survey responses, meeting notes from a month of client conversations, industry reports spanning hundreds of pages, or data from user behavior analytics. There are patterns and insights in all this information, but finding them manually is overwhelming. This is where AI excels, but with an important caveat. AI is a tool for processing and surfacing patterns.
not a replacement for your judgment about what those patterns mean. Here's how professionals use AI for this. They provide AI with the information, whether that's documents, data, or descriptions, and they ask specific analytical questions. Not, what insights can you find, but, based on this customer feedback, what are the top 3 categories of complaints? And within each category, what are the specific issues being raised? Are there any patterns in which customer segments are raising which issues? The specificity of the question shapes the quality of the analysis. Vague questions get vague answers. Precise questions, where you've thought about what you actually need to know, get useful answers. AI can process large volumes of text or data far faster than humans can, identifying patterns, categorizing information, and surfacing themes. But you still need to interpret those findings, validate them against your domain knowledge, and decide what action to take. AI is accelerating the analysis, not replacing the thinking. Let me give you a concrete example from my own work. I recently needed to analyze feedback from a series of customer interviews, about 25 conversations, each an hour long, with detailed notes. Reading through all those notes carefully would have taken me most of a day, and there was a real risk I'd start to lose the details or miss connections between different conversations. Instead, I provided AI with all the notes and asked it to identify the top 5 themes that appeared across multiple conversations. Note which customers mentioned each theme and what specifically they said. Flag any contradictions or disagreements between customers, and highlight any surprising or unexpected feedback that didn't fit into common themes. AI processed all of this in minutes and gave me a structured synthesis that I could immediately work with. I didn't just accept its analysis blindly. I went back to the original notes to validate key points and used my judgment about which themes were most strategically important. But AI had done the heavy lifting of processing, organizing, and surfacing patterns. What would have taken me 6 hours took me 90 minutes, and the analysis was more thorough because I wasn't mentally fatigued by the time I got to the end. This is the power of AI for research and analysis. It extends your cognitive capacity. It allows you to work with more information, explore more angles, and think through more complexity than you could manage on your own in the same time frame. But here's what separates professional use from amateur use. Professionals never blindly trust AI's analysis. They use AI to accelerate their own thinking, not replace it. This means several things in practice. First, when AI provides information, professionals verify it, especially for factual claims or data points. AI can occasionally get things wrong, and high-stakes decisions require accuracy. If AI tells you something surprising or that contradicts your understanding, you check it. Second, professionals apply their domain expertise to evaluate AI's outputs. AI doesn't understand your industry's nuances, your company's specific context, or the political dynamics of your organization. You do. So when AI suggests an insight or recommendation, you evaluate it through the lens of everything you know that AI doesn't. Third, professionals use AI to expand their thinking, not constrain it. If AI identifies 3 key themes in customer feedback, that's a useful starting point, but you still read through the feedback yourself, looking for things AI might have missed or framed differently. AI structures the initial analysis, but you're still doing the deep thinking. This balanced approach, leveraging AI's processing power while maintaining human judgment, is what makes research and analysis with AI so powerful. You're not choosing between AI analysis or human analysis. You're combining both, using each for what it does best. Let me share a framework I use for research and analysis with AI that you might find helpful. I think of it in 4 stages: scoping, processing, synthesis,
and validation. Scoping is where you clarify exactly what you need to understand or analyze and why. This is the thinking before prompting we discussed earlier. What questions do you need answered? What would constitute useful output? What constraints or criteria matter? Processing is where you use AI to handle the heavy lifting, summarizing sources, comparing options, identifying patterns, extracting themes, organizing information. This is where AI's speed and capacity shine. You're not doing this work manually anymore. You're directing AI to do it with clear instructions. Synthesis is where you take AI's processed output and combine it with your own thinking, domain knowledge, and judgment to form conclusions and insights. AI might have identified 5 themes in customer feedback, but you decide which 3 are most strategically important and what they mean for your product roadmap. Validation is where you check AI's work, verify key facts, test conclusions against your knowledge, and ensure nothing important was missed or misrepresented. This is your quality control layer. This 4-stage process, scope, process, synthesize, validate, ensures you're getting the benefits of AI's processing power while maintaining the quality and reliability that professional work requires. One final point about using AI for research and analysis. The quality of your inputs dramatically affects the quality of your outputs. If you provide AI with unclear questions, incomplete information, or vague criteria, you'll get unclear, incomplete, or vague analysis in return. This means that using AI effectively for research actually requires you to think more clearly, not less. You need to be precise about what you're trying to understand. You need to articulate your criteria and constraints clearly. You need to provide sufficient context for AI to do useful analysis. This is a feature, not a bug. The discipline of clarifying your research questions and analytical needs before engaging AI makes your thinking sharper and your results better. AI isn't letting you be lazy, it's rewarding you for being rigorous. So when you're facing your next research or analysis task, whether that's understanding a new topic, comparing options, analyzing trade-offs, or extracting insights, think about how AI can accelerate the process, not by doing the thinking for you, but by processing information faster, identifying patterns more systematically, and structuring analysis more thoroughly than you could alone. That's how professionals are using AI to dramatically improve their research and analysis work. And that's how you can, too. Now we need to address one of the most misunderstood applications of AI: writing. And I want to start by saying what this chapter is not about. It's not about using AI to write content for you while you sit back and do nothing. It's not about generating blog posts or reports by typing a single prompt and copying whatever AI produces. That approach produces mediocre, generic content that sounds like it was written by AI because it was. What we're talking about is something completely different and far more valuable. Using AI as a sophisticated writing partner that helps you refine your ideas, sharpen your clarity, and communicate more effectively, while you remain fully in control of the content, voice, and intent. Let me explain why this matters so much. Writing is hard. Not just the mechanical act of putting words on a page, but the deeper challenge of transforming the ideas in your head into clear, compelling communication that achieves your intended effect on your audience. When you're writing something important, a proposal, a report, an email to a key stakeholder, a presentation, an article, you're juggling multiple concerns simultaneously. You're trying to organize your thoughts logically, Express complex ideas clearly. Maintain an appropriate tone. Anticipate and address your audience's questions. Ensure you're being persuasive without being manipulative. And catch all your errors and unclear phrasing. This is cognitively demanding work. And because you're so close to your own writing, you often can't see its weaknesses. You know what you meant to say, so you don't notice when you haven't actually said it clearly. You're so familiar with the context that you don't realize when you've left out information your audience needs. You've read your own draft so many times that you're blind to the typos and awkward phrasing. This is where AI becomes incredibly valuable, but only if you understand how to use it correctly. Let's start with one of the most common writing scenarios. You've written a draft and you know it's not quite right, but you're not sure how to improve it. Maybe it feels too formal or too casual. Maybe it's unclear or too wordy. Maybe the structure isn't quite working. You can feel that something's off, but you can't pinpoint exactly what. The traditional approach would be to reread it multiple times, maybe set it aside and come back to it later. Try rewriting sections and hope you eventually figure it out. This is slow, frustrating, and often incomplete because you're limited by your own perspective on the piece. With AI, you can get immediate, specific feedback from a fresh perspective. But here's the key: you need to ask the right questions. Instead of just pasting your draft and asking, "How can I improve this?" professionals provide context and ask focused questions. They might say, "This is an email to a client explaining why we missed a deadline. I want to take responsibility without being overly apologetic, explain the technical issue clearly without making excuses, and provide a realistic new timeline. Does this draft achieve that balance? Where does the tone feel off?" Or, "This is the opening section of a proposal. The audience is non-technical executives who care about business outcomes, not implementation details. Is there any jargon or technical language that would lose them? Are the business benefits clear and compelling?" Or, "This explanation of our pricing model feels confusing to me. Can you identify where the logic becomes unclear and suggest how to structure it more clearly?" Notice how each of these requests is specific. You're not asking AI to rewrite your content. You're asking it to analyze your draft against clear criteria and identify specific issues. This gives you actionable feedback you can use to improve the piece while maintaining your own voice and judgment. This approach works because AI can see your writing with fresh eyes. It's not clouded by knowing what you meant to say. It can identify where your writing doesn't match your stated intent. And it can articulate problems you sensed but couldn't quite name. But feedback is just the beginning. Let's talk about tone, which is one of the trickiest aspects of writing to get right. Tone is the emotional quality of your writing, whether it comes across as formal or casual, confident or tentative, friendly or distant, authoritative or collaborative. The right tone depends entirely on your audience, your relationship with them, and what you're trying to accomplish. The problem is that tone is often invisible to the writer. You write in a voice that feels natural to you, but that voice might not be appropriate for the context. Maybe you're too casual when writing to senior leadership, or too formal when trying to connect with a general audience, or too tentative when you need to be assertive. AI can help you identify and adjust tone in ways that would be difficult to do on your own. You can provide a draft and ask, "Does this feel too aggressive?" Or, "Is this clear and confident without being arrogant?" Or, "This needs to feel more conversational. Where is it too stiff?" AI can analyze your draft and point out specific phrases or sentences where the tone isn't quite right. More importantly, you can ask AI to suggest alternative phrasings that hit the right tone while preserving your meaning. For example, you might have written, we need to discuss the significant delays in your deliverables. AI might suggest, "I'd like to talk about the timeline for the deliverables," or "Can we discuss the current project timeline?" Depending on whether you want to be more direct or more diplomatic. You're still deciding which version to use. You're applying your judgment about what tone is appropriate for this specific person and situation. But AI is expanding your options and helping you see how different phrasings create different emotional effects. This brings us to one of the most valuable applications of AI in writing: improving clarity. Clear writing is hard because you have to see your work from your reader's perspective, and that's psychologically difficult. What's obvious to you isn't necessarily obvious to someone encountering your ideas for the first time. AI excels at identifying clarity issues because it's processing your writing without all the context and assumptions in your head. When you write something like, "We need to implement the new process by Q3, AI can ask, "Which process specifically? What does implementation mean in this context? What happens in Q3? Is that a deadline or a target?" These might seem like nitpicky questions, but they represent real ambiguities that could confuse your readers. AI surfaces these ambiguities so you can address them. You can also use AI proactively to simplify complex ideas. This is especially valuable when you're writing about technical or specialized topics for a general audience. Here's how this works. You write your explanation using whatever language comes naturally, including technical terms, industry jargon, or complex concepts. Then you ask AI. This needs to be understandable to someone without a technical background. Where am I using jargon or concepts that need explanation? How can I simplify this while keeping it accurate? AI can identify the problematic sections and suggest clearer alternatives. But here's the important part. You evaluate those alternatives. You're the domain expert. You know what can be simplified without being misleading and what nuance needs to be preserved. AI is proposing options, not making final decisions. Let me give you a real example. I was recently writing an explanation of how a particular algorithm worked for a non-technical audience. My first draft included phrases like iterative optimization and convergence criteria. These are standard terms in my field, but they mean nothing to most people. I asked AI to help me simplify the explanation without sacrificing accuracy. It suggested using analogies, comparing the algorithm to how you might search for your lost keys by systematically checking likely places and learning from what you find. This made the concept accessible while preserving the core logic. I didn't just copy AI's suggestion verbatim. I adapted it, refined it, and integrated it into my larger explanation using my own voice. But AI had helped me see where I was being unclear and had given me a useful starting point for improvement. This is the pattern of effective AI-assisted writing. AI helps you see problems and suggests possibilities, but you maintain full ownership of the final product. Now let's talk about editing, which is closely related to writing, but has its own specific applications for AI. When you're editing your own work, there are several levels of concern. At the surface level, you're catching typos, grammatical errors, and awkward phrasing. At a deeper level, you're evaluating structure, flow, and whether each section serves your overall purpose. At the deepest level, you're ensuring the piece achieves your intended effect on your audience. AI can help at all these levels, but it's most valuable at the middle and deep levels, the places where traditional spell checkers and grammar tools fall short. For structural editing, you can ask AI questions like, Does the order of these sections make logical sense? Or, is this example helping or distracting from my main point? Or, should this information come earlier in the piece? AI can evaluate your structure objectively and identify problems you might miss because you're too close to the work. It might point out that you're introducing a concept before explaining a prerequisite idea, or that you have two sections that are making basically the same point and should be combined, or that your conclusion isn't really connecting back to your opening. For flow and coherence, AI can identify where transitions are awkward, where you've jumped too quickly from one idea to another, or where you're repeating yourself in ways that feel redundant rather than reinforcing. And for effectiveness, that deepest level of editing, you can ask AI to evaluate whether your piece is likely to achieve your stated goal. I'm trying to persuade my team to adopt this new process. Does this document make a compelling case? Or are there obvious objections I'm not addressing? AI can role-play as your skeptical audience and point out where your argument has gaps. But here's what I want you to understand about all of these writing and editing applications. AI is not making you a worse writer. It's making you a better one. There's a concern that using AI for writing will atrophy your skills, that you'll become dependent on it and lose your ability to write well on your own. But that's based on a misunderstanding of how professionals use AI for writing. Professionals aren't outsourcing their writing to AI. They're using AI to accelerate the writing and editing process while learning from the feedback. When AI points out that a sentence is unclear, you learn to recognize that pattern in the future. When AI suggests a clearer way to structure an argument, you internalize that approach. When AI helps you adjust your tone, you develop better intuition for how different audiences need different voices. Think of it like having a skilled editor or writing coach available 24/7. Working with a good editor makes you a better writer because you learn from their feedback. AI operates the same way, except it's always available, and you can get feedback on as many drafts as you want without feeling like you're imposing on someone's time. This is especially valuable for people who don't naturally enjoy writing or who find it stressful. AI can remove much of the anxiety by giving you a structured process and immediate feedback. Instead of agonizing over whether your draft is good enough, you can get objective feedback and specific suggestions for improvement. This makes the writing process less painful and more productive. I want to share a framework I use for AI-assisted writing that you might find helpful. I think of it in 3 phases: drafting, refining, and polishing. In the drafting phase, I'm getting ideas out of my head and onto the page. I'm not worried about perfection. I'm focused on capturing the content and structure. Sometimes I'll have a conversation with AI to clarify my thinking before I start writing. Other times, I'll draft on my own and then bring AI in during refinement. In the refining phase, I'm working on structure, clarity, and tone. This is where I paste sections into AI and ask specific questions about what's working and what isn't. I iterate on this, making changes based on AI's feedback and my own judgment until the piece feels solid. In the polishing phase, I'm catching errors, smoothing awkward phrasing, and ensuring consistency. This is final quality control before the piece goes out. This 3-phase process, draft, refine, polish, ensures I'm using AI strategically at each stage rather than either avoiding it entirely or over-relying on it. One final thought about AI for writing and editing. It's most valuable when you have high standards for your work. If you don't really care whether your writing is clear or compelling, AI won't change that. But if you care deeply about communicating effectively and you're willing to invest time in refining your work, AI becomes an incredibly powerful tool for achieving the quality you're aiming for. The professionals who are using AI to dramatically improve their writing aren't using it as a shortcut. They're using it as leverage, a way to achieve higher quality in less time, with less frustration, while continuously improving their skills. And if this workflow-based approach to using AI is resonating with you, if you're starting to see how these techniques could transform your own work, I'd encourage you to subscribe to this channel. We're building a complete library of deep dive guides on professional AI usage, and you won't want to miss the advanced techniques we'll be covering in future videos. Subscribing helps you stay updated with practical, actionable content that goes way beyond surface-level AI tips. Now, with that said, let's move on to our next chapter, where we'll explore one of the most underrated applications of AI: automating the repetitive mental work that drains your energy every single day. We need to talk about a hidden productivity killer that affects every knowledge worker: repetitive mental work. And I'm not talking about repetitive physical tasks or even repetitive digital tasks that can be automated with traditional software. I'm talking about the repetitive thinking that happens inside your head, the cognitive tasks you do over and over that drain your mental energy without adding much value. Here's what I mean. Think about your typical workday. How much time do you spend formatting documents or presentations to match brand guidelines, checking whether your writing follows specific style rules, reorganizing information that's in the wrong structure, validating data for errors or inconsistencies, reviewing content to ensure it meets certain criteria, or converting information from one format to another? These tasks all require thinking. They're not mindless, but they're the same kind of thinking repeated over and over. And the cumulative effect is exhausting. By the end of the day, you're mentally drained, not because you've been doing deep creative work or making important decisions, but because you've been burning mental energy on repetitive cognitive tasks that needed to be done, but weren't particularly valuable. This is where AI becomes transformative in a way that most people don't fully appreciate. AI is exceptionally good at handling repetitive mental work, not because it's creative or strategic, but precisely because it can execute the same type of thinking over and over without getting tired or making mistakes from fatigue. This allows you to offload entire categories of repetitive thinking to AI, freeing up your mental energy for the work that actually requires human judgment, creativity, and strategic thinking. Let's start with one of the most common forms of repetitive mental work: formatting and restructuring. You've probably spent countless hours of your life taking content that's in one format and converting it to another format. Taking bullet points and turning them into prose. Taking prose and turning it into structured bullet points. Reformatting a document to match specific style guidelines. Reorganizing content to follow a different structure. Adjusting tone or formality level throughout a piece. These tasks require attention and effort. You can't just blindly find and replace. But they're not creative work. You're applying rules and patterns consistently. And they're tedious. Your brain wants to do something more interesting, but you have to stay focused to avoid mistakes. AI excels at exactly this kind of work. You can provide content in one format and ask AI to convert it to another format with specific rules, and it will do it consistently and accurately. For example, you might have meeting notes in a free-form narrative format,
and you need to convert them into a structured list of action items with owners and deadlines. Instead of manually reading through the notes and extracting each action item, which takes time and mental energy, you can ask AI to extract all action items from these meeting notes and format them as action item, owner, deadline. If a deadline isn't explicitly mentioned, note TBD. AI processes the notes and produces the structured output in seconds. You still need to review it to ensure accuracy. You're not blindly trusting it, but the heavy lifting of extraction and formatting is done. Or maybe you've written a report in a casual, conversational tone, but you realize it needs to be more formal for your audience. Rather than going through paragraph by paragraph trying to adjust the tone consistently, you can ask AI to rewrite it in a formal tone while preserving all the content and meaning. Or you have data in one format and you need it in another. Maybe you have a table that needs to become a bulleted list, or a long list that needs to be organized into categories. AI can handle these transformations quickly and consistently. The key insight here is that you're not asking AI to think creatively or make decisions. You're asking it to apply consistent rules to transform content from one format to another. This is exactly the kind of task that's tedious for humans, but trivial for AI. Now, let's talk about another major category of repetitive mental work: checking and validation. Knowledge work is full of situations where you need to verify that something meets certain criteria or standards. You need to check whether a document follows style guidelines, whether data entries are consistent, whether a process was followed correctly, whether all required elements are present, or whether there are errors or inconsistencies that need fixing. This checking work is mentally draining because it requires sustained attention to detail. You have to stay focused and catch every deviation from the standard. And because it's repetitive, your brain wants to go on autopilot, which means you start making mistakes. AI is much better at this kind of systematic checking than humans are. It doesn't get bored, it doesn't lose focus, and it can apply rules consistently across large amounts of content. For example, let's say you have a document that needs to follow specific writing guidelines. No passive voice, sentences under 25 words, no jargon without definitions, specific formatting for headings. Manually checking a long document against all these rules is tedious and error-prone. You'll miss things, especially when you're tired. But you can ask AI to review this document and identify any instances of passive voice, any sentences longer than 25 words, any jargon terms that aren't defined, and any headings that don't match the format title case with no period. Provide specific examples of each issue found. AI systematically checks the entire document and gives you a detailed report of issues. You can then fix them efficiently rather than trying to catch them yourself through multiple careful readings.
Or maybe you're working with data and you need to check for inconsistencies. You have a spreadsheet with customer information and you need to verify that phone numbers are properly formatted, email addresses are valid, zip codes match cities, and there are no duplicate entries. AI can validate all of this systematically and flag any issues. Or you're managing a process that has multiple required steps, and you need to verify that each step was completed. Rather than manually checking each case against the checklist, which is boring, and you'll probably make mistakes, AI can process all the data and identify any cases where steps are missing. The pattern is the same. You define the rules or criteria. AI applies them systematically, and you review the results. This is far more efficient and accurate than trying to do all the checking yourself. Let me give you a real-world example. I recently needed to review about 40 customer proposals to ensure they all included certain required sections and followed our pricing guidelines. Doing this manually would have meant opening each proposal, scanning through to verify each required element, checking the pricing calculations, and noting any issues. It would have taken hours, and I absolutely would have missed things. Instead, I gave AI the list of required elements and the pricing guidelines, then had it review each proposal systematically. It flagged the handful of proposals that were missing sections or had pricing errors, and I could focus my attention on fixing those specific issues rather than checking everything. This brings us to a third category of repetitive mental work that AI handles exceptionally well: extraction and summarization at scale. Knowledge workers often need to extract specific information from large amounts of content, identify patterns across multiple documents, or summarize key points from lengthy materials. Doing this manually is time-consuming and mentally exhausting. AI can process large volumes of content quickly and extract exactly what you need according to criteria you specify. For instance, you might have dozens of customer feedback emails, and you need to extract all feature requests mentioned, all complaints about specific issues, and any mentions of competitor products. Reading through all the emails and cataloging each instance would take hours. AI can process them all in minutes and give you structured output. Or you have a series of reports from different departments, and you need to extract key metrics, significant risks, and resource requests from each one. AI can systematically pull this information and organize it in whatever format you need. Or you're doing research, and you need to extract specific types of information from multiple sources: methodology details, key findings, limitations. AI can process all your sources and extract exactly what you're looking for. The key is that you're defining what needs to be extracted, and AI is doing the systematic work of going through everything and pulling out what matches your criteria. You're not abdicating judgment. You still evaluate what AI extracted and make decisions based on it, but you're eliminating the tedious work of manual extraction. Now let's talk about one more critical application: reducing decision fatigue through structured decision-making. Here's something most people don't realize. We make hundreds of small decisions every day, and each one uses up a bit of mental energy. Should this go in this section or that section? Is this phrasing better or that one? Should I handle this task now or later? Does this sentence add value, or should I delete it? None of these individual decisions is particularly hard, but the cumulative effect is exhausting. By the end of the day, you're tired partly because you've been making constant small decisions. AI can help reduce this decision fatigue by providing structured frameworks for recurring decisions and handling routine decision-making for you. For example, if you regularly need to prioritize tasks or requests, you can give AI a decision framework. Tasks should be prioritized based on impact on quarterly goals, high weight; urgency, medium weight; resource requirements, low weight, prefer lower requirements. Then, when you have a new batch of tasks, you can ask AI to apply this framework and suggest a priority order. You're still making the final call about priorities, but AI has done the systematic work of evaluating each task against your criteria and providing a suggested order. This removes the mental load of going through each task individually and trying to weigh all the factors in your head. Or maybe you regularly receive requests that need to be evaluated against certain criteria to decide whether to approve them. You can give AI the criteria and have it assess each request, flagging the ones that clearly meet the criteria, the ones that clearly don't, and the edge cases that need your judgment. This allows you to focus your decision-making energy on the genuinely difficult calls, while letting AI handle the routine evaluation work. The underlying principle across all these applications is the same. AI handles the systematic, rule-based, repetitive thinking, so you can reserve your mental energy for the work that genuinely requires human judgment, creativity, and strategic thinking. Let me be very clear about something important. Automating repetitive mental work with AI isn't about being lazy or avoiding thinking. It's about being strategic with your mental energy. Your cognitive capacity is limited. You only have so much mental energy each day. How you allocate that energy determines what you can accomplish and how you feel at the end of the day. If you spend your limited mental energy on repetitive tasks that don't really require your unique skills or judgment, you'll end the day exhausted with little to show for it. But if you offload those repetitive tasks to AI and focus your mental energy on creative problem solving, strategic thinking, and high-value decision-making, you'll end the day having accomplished more meaningful work while feeling less drained. This is about working smarter, not just faster. It's about recognizing that your judgment, creativity, and strategic thinking are your most valuable professional assets, and protecting your capacity for those things by letting AI handle the repetitive mental work that doesn't require them. Let me share a framework for identifying what repetitive mental work you should consider automating with AI. Ask yourself these questions about any recurring task. First, is this task primarily about applying consistent rules or patterns? If you're following a checklist, matching against criteria, or transforming content according to specific rules, that's a strong candidate for AI automation. Second, does this task require sustained attention to detail but not creative judgment? If you need to catch every instance of something, or check every item against a standard, but you're not making creative decisions about what to do, AI can probably handle it. Third, do I find myself mentally tired after doing this task, even though it's not particularly intellectually challenging? That's a sign that the task is consuming mental energy without providing corresponding value, making it a good candidate for automation. Fourth, am I doing essentially the same thinking process repeatedly? If you're applying the same logic over and over to different instances, AI can replicate that thinking process consistently. If a task meets several of these criteria, it's worth exploring whether AI can handle it or assist with it substantially. Now, I want to address a common concern. If AI is doing all this repetitive mental work, am I becoming less capable? Am I losing important skills? This is a reasonable question, but I think it's based on a misunderstanding of what's valuable about human cognition. The repetitive mental work we're talking about, formatting, checking, extracting, validating, these aren't skills that define your professional value. Your value comes from your ability to understand complex situations, make nuanced judgments, think creatively, solve novel problems, communicate persuasively, build relationships, and make strategic decisions. Offloading repetitive mental work doesn't diminish those capabilities. If anything, it strengthens them because you have more mental energy to invest in developing and applying them. Think about it this way. Calculators automated arithmetic, but they didn't make people worse at mathematics. They freed people from tedious calculations so they could focus on higher-level mathematical thinking. Spreadsheets automated financial calculations, but they didn't make financial professionals less valuable. They allowed those professionals to focus on analysis and strategy rather than manual calculation. AI automation of repetitive mental work follows the same pattern. It's not replacing the valuable parts of your cognition. It's eliminating the tedious parts so you can focus on what actually matters. But here's the key to making this work.
You need to be intentional about where you invest the mental energy you're saving. If you use AI to eliminate 2 hours of formatting work each week, but you just fill that time with more busy work, you haven't really gained anything. But if you use those 2 hours for strategic thinking, creative problem solving, or skill development, you've genuinely increased your professional capacity. This is where professional AI users separate themselves from casual users. They don't just automate repetitive work. They reallocate the freed up time and energy toward high-value activities that compound their capabilities over time. Let me give you some concrete examples of how to put this into practice. Start by tracking how you spend your time for a few days. Notice when you're doing repetitive mental work, formatting, checking, reorganizing, validating. These are your automation opportunities. For each category of repetitive work you identify, develop a template or process for how to use AI to handle it. If you regularly format meeting notes into action items, create a saved prompt that structures exactly how you want AI to do this. If you frequently need to check documents against style guidelines, define those guidelines clearly so you can efficiently have AI check compliance. Then establish a new workflow where AI handles the repetitive parts and you focus on review and decision-making. Instead of spending 30 minutes reformatting a document, spend 5 minutes having AI do it and 5 minutes reviewing the results. Use the 20 minutes you saved for more valuable work. Over time, you'll build a personal automation system where AI handles an increasing portion of your repetitive mental work, and you're consistently investing your mental energy in higher value activities. The compound effect of this is remarkable. Not only are you more productive in the immediate sense of getting more done, but you're also building capabilities and doing work that has longer-term strategic value rather than just keeping up with operational demands. This is the future of knowledge work. Humans focusing on judgment, creativity, strategy, and relationships, while AI handles systematic execution, checking, formatting, and other repetitive cognitive tasks. And the professionals who embrace this future now, who learn to effectively automate their repetitive mental work and strategically deploy the mental energy they save, are building a massive competitive advantage over those who are still trying to do everything manually. So look at your own work. Where are you burning mental energy on repetitive tasks that AI could handle? What would you do with that freed up time and energy if you had it? How could you use AI to shift from being busy to being impactful? Those questions are worth serious thought, because the answers could transform how you work and what you're capable of achieving. We need to have a serious conversation about one of the most important boundaries in professional AI use: the line between decision support and decision making. And this isn't just a philosophical distinction, it's a practical one that determines whether you use AI effectively or whether you end up making costly mistakes. Here's the fundamental truth: AI should support your decisions, not make them for you. And yet, I see people constantly crossing this line, treating AI outputs as decisions rather than inputs, and then wondering why things go wrong. Let me be very direct about why this matters. When you make a decision in your professional life, you're taking responsibility for the outcome. If the decision works out well, you get the credit. If it doesn't, you bear the consequences. Your judgment, your experience, your understanding of context, and your accountability are all on the line. AI has none of that. It has no stake in the outcome. It doesn't understand the full context of your situation, the politics, the relationships, the history, the constraints that aren't written down anywhere. It doesn't have to live with the consequences of the decision. And most importantly, it has no judgment about what really matters in your specific circumstances.
This means that using AI to make decisions for you is fundamentally misguided. But using AI to support your decision-making, to help you think through options more thoroughly, identify risks you might have missed, challenge your assumptions, and explore scenarios systematically. That's where AI becomes incredibly valuable. So let's talk about what decision support actually looks like in practice, starting with scenario exploration. Good decisions require thinking through what might happen under different circumstances. What if our assumptions are wrong? What if the market shifts? What if our competitor does something unexpected? What if we encounter obstacles we didn't anticipate? The problem is that scenario thinking is mentally demanding. You have to hold multiple hypothetical futures in your head simultaneously, trace through the implications of each one, and evaluate how your different options would play out in each scenario. Most people don't do this thoroughly because it's exhausting and time-consuming. AI can dramatically accelerate scenario exploration. You can describe a decision you're facing and the key uncertainties, and ask AI to help you map out different scenarios and how your options would perform in each one. For example, let's say you're deciding whether to launch a new product line. You might ask AI, help me explore 3 scenarios. Best case, where adoption exceeds expectations. Base case, where adoption matches projections. And worst case, where adoption significantly underperforms. For each scenario, analyze the financial implications, resource demands, and strategic consequences of launching versus not launching. AI can systematically work through each scenario, helping you see the decision from multiple angles. It might identify implications you hadn't considered, or point out that one option is robust across scenarios, while another is highly dependent on specific assumptions proving true. But here's the critical part. AI is doing the analytical legwork, but you're still making the decision. You're evaluating AI's scenario analysis through the lens of your judgment about which scenarios are actually likely, which consequences matter most, and what level of risk is acceptable given your strategic context. This brings us to one of the most valuable applications of AI in decision support: risk identification. Every significant decision involves risks, things that could go wrong, negative consequences you might not have fully considered, second-order effects that aren't immediately obvious. The problem is that we're psychologically biased to downplay risks when we're excited about an opportunity, and we often have blind spots about categories of risk we're not naturally attuned to. AI can help by systematically exploring what could go wrong, not to paralyze you with fear, but to ensure you've thought through the risks thoroughly and can either mitigate them or consciously accept them. You might say, I'm considering hiring a remote team in a different time zone to extend our working hours. What risks should I consider that might not be immediately obvious? AI can identify risks you might not have thought about: communication challenges, cultural differences, knowledge transfer difficulties, reduced team cohesion, complexity in project management, potential for decreased quality if oversight is harder. You might have thought about some of these, but probably not all of them. And now that they're surfaced, you can think about how serious each risk is in your specific context and what you might do to mitigate them. The key is that AI is expanding your thinking about risk, not making a risk assessment for you. You still have to evaluate which risks are serious enough to worry about, which can be managed, and whether the opportunity is worth the risks. That judgment is inherently contextual and requires understanding of your situation that AI doesn't have. This leads to another powerful application of AI in decision support: assumption challenging. When we're working through a decision, we make assumptions, often unconsciously. We assume the market will continue to behave a certain way, or that our team will have capacity for new work, or that a particular approach will work because it worked before. Some of these assumptions are solid. Others are questionable, but we don't realize it because they feel obvious to us. AI can help surface and challenge your assumptions in ways that improve your decision quality. You can describe your thinking about a decision and explicitly ask AI to identify and challenge your underlying assumptions. For instance, I'm planning to expand into a new market segment next quarter. My reasoning is that our current product will appeal to this segment with minor modifications, and our sales team can handle the additional segment without significant additional training. Challenge my assumptions and identify what I might be taking for granted. AI might respond by questioning whether you've validated that the new segment actually has the needs your product addresses, whether the minor modifications are truly sufficient, or you're underestimating the adaptation required, whether your sales team has the right relationships and credibility in the new segment, whether you've considered how serving this new segment might affect your positioning in your current segment, and whether your capacity assumptions account for the learning curve and initial inefficiency. These challenges force you to either validate your assumptions or revise your thinking. Maybe some assumptions are solid and you have good evidence for them. Maybe others are shakier than you realized, and you need to gather more information before deciding. Either way, the process of having your assumptions challenged strengthens your decision-making. Now let's talk about blind spot identification, which is related but distinct. Blind spots are categories of considerations that you're simply not thinking about at all. Not assumptions you're making consciously, but things you're not even aware you should be considering. We all have blind spots shaped by our experience, expertise, and perspective. An engineer might have blind spots around customer psychology. A marketer might have blind spots around technical feasibility. A generalist might have blind spots in specialized domains. AI can help identify these blind spots by bringing a different perspective to your decision-making. You can describe a decision and ask, "What am I not thinking about? What categories of consideration am I likely missing given my background and perspective?" This is surprisingly effective because AI has been trained on such a broad range of domains that it can often identify relevant considerations from fields you're not familiar with. It might point out regulatory implications you hadn't considered, or historical precedents that parallel your situation, or stakeholder groups that will be affected but that you hadn't thought about. Again, the value isn't that AI is making the decision. It's that AI is expanding the space of considerations you're evaluating before you make the decision yourself. Let me give you a real example from my own work. I was deciding whether to restructure my team's workflow around a new project management system. In my mind, this was primarily a technical decision. Which system has the features we need? What's the migration path? How long will implementation take? I asked AI to challenge my thinking and identify what I might be missing. It pointed out that I was focused entirely on the technical and operational aspects, but wasn't considering the change management dimensions. How my team would react to a significant workflow change. Whether the new system aligned with or conflicted with how people naturally work. What training and support would be needed, and how to maintain productivity during the transition. These weren't obscure considerations. They were actually really important. But I had a blind spot because my natural thinking about this problem was through a technical lens. AI helped me see that this was as much a people problem as a technical problem, which completely changed how I approached the decision. This is the power of AI as decision support. It expands your thinking, challenges your assumptions, surfaces risks, and identifies blind spots. It makes you a better decision maker by forcing you to think more thoroughly and from more angles than you might naturally do on your own. But here's what separates professional use of AI for decision support from amateur use. Professionals maintain clear ownership of the decision. Amateur use looks like this. AI, what should I do about X? The person is trying to outsource the decision to AI. They're looking for AI to tell them the answer. Professional use looks like this. Here's the decision I'm facing. Here's my current thinking. Help me explore scenarios, identify risks, and challenge my assumptions so I can make a better decision. The person is using AI to enhance their own decision-making process while maintaining full ownership of the final choice. This distinction is absolutely critical. When you outsource decisions to AI, you're abdicating your responsibility and judgment. You're also setting yourself up for failure because AI doesn't have the context, stakes, or accountability to make good decisions in your specific situation. But when you use AI to support your decisions, to think more thoroughly, consider more angles, and evaluate options more systematically, you're leveraging AI's capabilities while still applying your irreplaceable human judgment. Here's a framework I use for AI-supported decision-making that you might find helpful. I call it the IDEA framework: inputs, dimensions, evaluation, and accountability. Inputs. What information and analysis does AI need to help you think through this decision? What context, constraints, and considerations should you provide? This is about setting up the decision support conversation effectively. Dimensions. What aspects of the decision do you want AI to help you explore? Scenarios, risks, assumptions, blind spots, trade-offs? Be explicit about what type of thinking you want support on. Evaluation. How will you evaluate AI's inputs and integrate them with your own thinking? What's your process for weighing AI's analysis against your judgment and context? Accountability. What's your decision and reasoning? Can you articulate why you made this choice, incorporating but not hiding behind AI's analysis? This framework ensures you're using AI to enhance your decision-making without outsourcing it. One more critical point about decision support. AI should make you more confident in your decisions, not less. If you're using AI correctly to expand your thinking, challenge your assumptions, and identify risks, you should end up with more confidence that you've made a well-reasoned decision, even if it's a difficult one. If instead, you're feeling less confident because AI has given you contradictory advice or raised so many considerations that you're paralyzed, that's a sign you're using it wrong. You're probably asking AI to make the decision instead of using it to support your decision-making process. The goal is to use AI to make better decisions more efficiently, to think through decisions more thoroughly in less time, with more confidence that you've considered the important factors. That's what decision support means, and that's how professionals use AI for the decisions that matter. Remember, AI supports decisions. You make them. Keep that line clear, and you'll get enormous value from AI without the risks that come from blurring the boundary. Now we need to address something that doesn't get talked about enough: the trust problem with AI. And this isn't about whether AI is generally trustworthy or not. It's about understanding specifically when and how to trust AI outputs, and just as importantly, when not to. Here's the uncomfortable truth. AI will confidently give you wrong information, not occasionally, regularly. And it won't give you any indication that the information is wrong. It will present fabrications with the same confidence as facts, errors with the same certainty as accurate information, and outdated information as if it were current. This is often called hallucination, when AI generates content that sounds plausible but is actually incorrect, fabricated, or misleading. And it's one of the most dangerous aspects of AI if you don't know how to handle it. The naive approach is blind trust. AI said it, so it must be true. This is catastrophically dangerous. People have lost jobs, damaged reputations, and made terrible decisions because they blindly trusted AI outputs without verification. The opposite extreme is complete distrust. Never trust anything AI produces. This makes AI nearly useless because you're spending more time verifying than you save from AI assistance. The professional approach is calibrated trust. Understand when AI outputs are likely to be reliable, verify systematically in high-stakes situations, and build workflows that catch errors before they cause problems. Let's break down how to actually do this, starting with understanding when to be most skeptical of AI outputs. AI is most likely to hallucinate or provide incorrect information in several specific situations. First, when you're asking about specific facts, dates, statistics, or quotes. AI sometimes fabricates these with remarkable confidence. Second, when you're asking about recent events or information after AI's training cutoff. Third, when you're asking about niche or specialized topics where training data might be limited. Fourth, when you're asking for specific sources or citations, AI often makes these up. And fifth, when you're asking about mathematical calculations or logical reasoning, AI can make errors in multi-step reasoning. These categories don't mean you can't use AI for these purposes. They mean you need extra verification when you do. So how do you verify AI outputs effectively? Let me walk you through several techniques that professionals use. The most straightforward is cross-referencing. When AI gives you factual information, especially if it's important, check it against reliable sources. This doesn't mean you have to verify every single thing AI tells you. That would be exhausting. But for anything that would cause problems if it were wrong, take the time to verify. For instance, if AI tells you that a particular regulation requires specific compliance measures, don't just implement those measures based on AI's word. Look up the actual regulation or consult with compliance experts. If AI gives you statistics about your industry, check whether those numbers come from legitimate sources. This might feel like extra work, but here's the key insight. AI dramatically speeds up the initial research and analysis phase, even if you need to verify key points. Getting a well-structured answer that you can verify is much faster than starting from scratch. You're using AI to accelerate research, while using human verification to ensure accuracy. Another technique is consistency checking. Ask AI the same question multiple times in different ways and see if you get consistent answers. If AI gives you contradictory information, that's a red flag that it might be hallucinating or working with uncertain information. For example, if you ask, "What are the key provisions of Regulation X?" and get one answer, then ask, "How does Regulation X address topic Y?" and get information that contradicts the first answer, you know you need to verify against the actual source. A third technique is reasonableness testing. Use your own domain knowledge to evaluate whether AI's outputs make sense. If AI tells you something that contradicts your understanding or seems implausible, don't just accept it. Investigate further. This is where your expertise is crucial. You might not know everything, but you know enough to spot when something doesn't add up. Trust that instinct. If AI's response
triggers your skepticism, that's valuable signal. A fourth technique is source validation. When AI cites sources or references specific documents, verify that those sources actually exist and actually say what AI claims they say. AI frequently fabricates sources or misrepresents what sources say. This is especially critical in academic or professional contexts where accuracy matters. Don't cite sources in your work based solely on AI's claim that they support your point. Check the actual sources. Now, let me share something important about hallucination detection. It gets easier with experience. As you use AI more, you develop intuition for when outputs feel off. You notice patterns in how AI sounds when it's confident about something it knows, versus when it's generating plausible-sounding content about something it doesn't actually know. This intuition isn't perfect, but it's valuable. Trust it. When something from AI doesn't quite feel right, investigate. But verification isn't just about catching errors after the fact. It's about building workflows that are robust to errors. Systems that catch problems before they cause damage. Here's what this looks like in practice. Professionals build verification points into their AI workflows at critical junctures. If you're using AI to draft client communications, your workflow includes a careful review before sending. You're not just skimming, you're actually reading to ensure everything is accurate, appropriate, and sounds like you. If you're using AI for research, your workflow includes cross-checking key facts against primary sources before you rely on them for important decisions or include them in your work. If you're using AI for analysis, your workflow includes sense-checking the conclusions against your domain knowledge and, when possible, validating with actual data or other analytical methods. The pattern is the same. AI provides speed and capability, but human verification provides reliability. You're combining both to get outputs that are both efficient to produce and trustworthy. This brings us to an important point about learning from errors. When you catch AI making a mistake or hallucinating, don't just correct it and move on. Take a moment to understand what happened. Was it a type of question or task where AI tends to struggle? Was there ambiguity in your prompt that led AI to make wrong assumptions? Was it attempting to answer something beyond its knowledge cutoff? Understanding the pattern helps you avoid similar errors in the future. Over time, you build a mental model of where AI is reliable and where it's likely to make mistakes. This allows you to calibrate your trust appropriately, trusting more in areas where AI is consistently accurate, and being more skeptical in areas where you've seen errors before. This is what I mean by calibrated trust. You're not blindly trusting or uniformly distrusting. You're developing nuanced judgment about when to trust AI outputs and when to verify carefully. Let me give you a concrete example of how this works in practice. I use AI extensively for writing, but I've learned through experience that AI sometimes introduces subtle errors when editing. It might change a word in a way that slightly shifts the meaning, or introduce phrasing that's technically correct but doesn't match my voice. Because I know this, my workflow includes careful review of any AI-edited content. I don't just accept the changes, I read through to ensure they're actually improvements and that the voice is still mine. This verification step catches errors before they make it into my published work. But I've also learned that AI is quite reliable at identifying structural issues in writing, places where logic is unclear, transitions are abrupt, or organization could be improved. So I trust that feedback more readily, though I still apply my judgment about which suggestions to act on. This is calibrated trust in action. Different levels of verification and skepticism depending on the task, the stakes, and my experience with AI's reliability in that domain. Now let's talk about something crucial: building confidence over time. When you're new to AI, you might feel uncertain about when to trust it. That's completely normal. The solution isn't to either trust blindly or verify everything exhaustively. It's to start with higher verification in the beginning and gradually reduce it as you build confidence. Start by verifying AI outputs extensively in the beginning. Check facts, validate sources, cross-reference information. This serves two purposes. It protects you from errors, and it helps you learn where AI is reliable and where it struggles. As you gain experience, you can reduce verification for categories where you've consistently found AI to be accurate, while maintaining higher verification for high-stakes outputs or areas where you've seen errors. This is how professionals build reliable AI workflows. They start cautious, learn from experience, and develop calibrated trust that allows them to work efficiently without being reckless. One more important point: verification doesn't have to be time-consuming. Often, a quick sanity check is sufficient. You don't need to do exhaustive research to verify every AI output. You just need to pause and ask, does this seem right? Does this align with what I know? If something important hinges on this being accurate, have I confirmed it? These quick checks catch most problems without requiring extensive time investment. Here's a framework for thinking about verification that I find useful. Risk proportional verification. The amount of verification you do should be proportional to the consequences of the information being wrong. If AI is helping you write a casual email to a colleague, minimal verification is fine. If something's off, it's not a big deal. If AI is providing information for a client proposal or a strategic decision, thorough verification is essential. Errors could damage relationships or lead to bad decisions. If AI is helping with something that has legal, financial, or safety implications, extensive verification is mandatory. The stakes are too high to risk errors. This proportional approach lets you work efficiently on low-stakes tasks while being appropriately rigorous on high-stakes ones. The bottom line on building trust with AI: treat AI outputs as drafts that need validation, not finished products that are inherently trustworthy. Use AI to dramatically accelerate your work, but build verification into your workflow based on the stakes and your experience with AI's reliability in different domains. Over time, you'll develop calibrated trust, knowing when to rely on AI confidently and when to verify carefully. That's when AI becomes truly powerful, when you can leverage its speed and capability while maintaining reliability through smart verification practices. Don't trust blindly. Don't distrust completely. Build calibrated trust through experience and systematic verification. That's how professionals make AI reliable. We've covered a lot of ground on how professionals use AI effectively. Now we need to talk about something crucial. There is no universal AI workflow that works for everyone. The specific tools, prompts, processes, and habits that work for me might not work for you, and that's completely fine. What matters isn't copying someone else's workflow. It's understanding the principles of effective AI use, and then designing a personalized system that fits your role, your industry, your thinking style, and your specific needs. This is where most people get stuck. They see someone else's AI workflow, try to adopt it wholesale, find that it doesn't quite fit their situation, and give up. Or they use AI in an ad hoc way without any real system, which means they never build the habits and efficiency that come from consistent, structured use. The professional approach is different.
Deliberately design a personal AI workflow that works for you. Then refine it over time as you learn what works and what doesn't. So let's talk about how to actually do this, starting with understanding what a personal AI workflow actually is. A workflow isn't just using AI occasionally when you remember. It's a systematic approach to incorporating AI into your regular work processes. It includes the specific use cases where you use AI consistently, the prompts or templates you use for recurring tasks, the verification processes you follow for different types of outputs, the tools you use and how they fit together, and the habits and triggers that ensure you actually use AI rather than forgetting about it. The goal is to make AI usage automatic and efficient, not something you have to consciously think about each time. So, how do you design this? Let's break it down into steps. Step 1 is identifying your high-value use cases. These are the tasks or activities where AI can provide the most benefit to you specifically, not in general, but for your actual work. Think about your typical week. What are the tasks that take a lot of time but are somewhat repetitive or structured? What are the tasks where you get mentally fatigued? What are the tasks where you wish you had help thinking through complexity? What are the tasks where speed would be valuable? For a consultant, high-value use cases might include preparing for client meetings, analyzing client data, drafting sections of reports, and refining presentation materials. For a product manager, they might include synthesizing user feedback, drafting product requirements documents, preparing stakeholder updates, and exploring strategic options. For a developer, they might include debugging code, writing documentation, explaining technical concepts to non-technical colleagues, and designing system architecture. For a marketer, they might include drafting campaign copy, analyzing campaign performance, researching competitor approaches, and planning content calendars. The specific use cases will vary dramatically based on your role, but the principle is the same. Identify where AI can genuinely help with tasks you actually do regularly. Start by making a list of your most common tasks, and then evaluate each one. Would AI help with this significantly? Do I do this often enough that building an AI workflow for it would be worth the setup time? Focus on the use cases that score high on both dimensions. These are your high-value opportunities. Step 2 is developing your core prompts and templates. For your high-value use cases, you don't want to be crafting prompts from scratch every time. You want to have templates that you can quickly adapt to the specific situation. For example, if you regularly need to summarize meeting notes into action items, develop a template like, "These are notes from a type of meeting with participants." Extract all action items and format them as action, owner, deadline, priority. You save this template and use it every time, just plugging in the specific details. This makes the process fast and ensures consistency. Do this for each of your high-value use cases. Create templates that include the context AI needs, the specific output format you want, any constraints or requirements, and examples if relevant. These templates become your personal AI toolkit. Over time, you'll refine them based on what produces the best results. Step 3 is establishing your verification practices. Based on what we discussed in the previous chapter, you need clear rules for when and how you verify AI outputs. For each use case, define your verification approach. Is this something where you can mostly trust AI with a quick sanity check? Or is this high stakes and requires thorough verification? For instance, If you're using AI to draft internal team communications, your verification might be a quick read-through to ensure accuracy and tone. But if you're using AI to research information for a client deliverable, your verification might include cross-checking key facts against primary sources. Document these verification standards so they become automatic. You don't have to think about how much to verify. You already know based on the use case. Step 4 is choosing and integrating your tools. There are many AI tools available: ChatGPT, Claude, specialized tools for different domains. The question is which ones you'll actually use and how they fit into your workflow. Consider what tools integrate with the other software you use. What tools are best for your specific use cases? What tools does your organization support? What's your budget? For most professionals, starting with 1 or 2 core tools is better than trying to use everything. You want to build real proficiency with the tools you use, rather than superficial familiarity with many tools. Think about how these tools fit into your existing workflow. Are you using them through web interfaces, mobile apps, or integrated into other software you use? The more friction there is to access AI, the less likely you are to use it consistently. Step 5 is building habits and triggers. Having a workflow is useless if you don't actually follow it. You need to build habits that ensure AI becomes part of your regular routine. One effective approach is habit stacking, linking AI use to existing habits. For example, when I finish a meeting, I process my notes with AI before moving to the next thing. Or, when I start drafting an important email, I first have a quick conversation with AI to clarify my message. Another approach is creating triggers, situations where you automatically think to use AI. Maybe it's, whenever I'm about to start a research task, I start with AI to plan my approach. Or, whenever I finish a first draft, I use AI to review it before spending time on detailed editing. The goal is to make AI use automatic, rather than something you have to remember to do. Step 6 is iterating and refining. Your initial workflow, if it's too complicated or has too many steps, you'll abandon it. Start simple and add complexity only if it's clearly valuable. Second principle, consistency over perfection. It's better to use AI consistently with an imperfect workflow than to have an perfect workflow you rarely use. Focus on building the habit of regular use, and the refinement will come with experience. Third principle, integration over isolation. AI should fit into your existing work processes, not create entirely separate processes. If using AI requires switching contexts or interrupting your flow, you won't do it. Find ways to integrate AI into how you already work. Fourth principle, flexibility within structure. Have a structured approach for your common use cases, but remain flexible for novel situations. Don't be so rigid that you can't adapt when circumstances change or new opportunities arise. Fifth principle, continuous learning. AI technology is evolving rapidly. What works today might be outdated in 6 months. Stay open to new approaches, tools, and techniques. Your workflow should evolve as AI capabilities improve. Let me give you a concrete example of what a personal AI workflow might look like in practice. Let's say you're a middle manager who leads a team, attends a lot of meetings, and produces reports and presentations regularly. Here's how you might design your workflow. For meeting prep, you have a template. I have a meeting about topic with participants. The goal is goal. Based on my understanding that context, help me.
Identify the 3 most important points to communicate, anticipate concerns or questions, and suggest an effective meeting structure. For meeting follow-up, another template. Here are notes from a meeting about topic. Extract all action items with owners and deadlines. Identify any decisions made. Flag any points where there was disagreement or uncertainty. For team communications, a verification practice. Quick read-through for accuracy and tone. You're looking for whether it clearly communicates what you need, sounds like you, and is appropriate for your team. For reports and presentations, a multi-stage process. Use AI to help structure your thinking and draft sections, but thorough verification of all factual information and careful refinement of voice and message before finalizing. You've integrated these into existing habits. Meeting prep happens right after you accept a meeting invitation. Meeting follow-up happens before you move to your next task. Report drafting starts with an AI conversation to organize your thoughts. This workflow is simple, consistent, integrated into your existing patterns, and focused on your specific high-value use cases. It's not trying to use AI for everything, just for the things where it genuinely helps. Over time, you notice that the meeting prep template produces good results, but the meeting follow-up template often misses important context. So you refine it to ask more specific questions about decisions and next steps. Your workflow is evolving based on experience. That's what an effective personal AI workflow looks like. Not complex or comprehensive, but practical and actually used. One final point. Your workflow will be different from your colleagues' workflows, even if you're in similar roles. That's not a problem. It's expected. You think differently, work differently, and have different strengths and challenges. The person next to you might use AI heavily for drafting and lightly for research. You might be the opposite. Neither of you is wrong. You're each optimizing for your own needs and working style. This is why copying someone else's workflow rarely works. You need to design your own based on the principles we've discussed, tailored to your specific circumstances. So take some time to think through, what are my high-value use cases? What prompts or templates would make those use cases efficient? What verification practices do I need for different situations? How can I integrate this into my existing habits? How will I iterate and improve over time? Answer those questions, and you'll have the foundation for a personal AI workflow that actually works for you. Then the key is to actually implement it, use it consistently, and refine it based on your experience. That's how professionals turn AI from an occasional tool into a reliable system that enhances everything they do. We've reached the final chapter, and I want to zoom out from the tactical and technical details to talk about something bigger. Why AI literacy matters not just for your productivity today, but for your career trajectory over the coming years and decades. Because here's what I've observed. The professionals who are building genuine AI literacy right now, not just using AI occasionally, but developing deep skill in leveraging it effectively, are building a durable, competitive advantage that compounds over time. And the gap between people who develop this literacy and people who don't is going to widen dramatically. Let me explain what I mean by AI literacy. It's not about knowing how to write clever prompts or being familiar with the latest AI tools. Those are useful skills, but they're surface level. Real AI literacy is understanding how to think with AI, how to decompose complex problems into parts AI can help with, how to maintain judgment while leveraging AI's capabilities,
how to build reliable workflows that combine human and machine intelligence, and how to learn from AI interactions and continuously improve your approach. It's a meta skill that sits above the specific techniques and tools. It's about understanding the nature of AI capabilities and limitations deeply enough that you can apply that understanding across contexts, tools, and problems. And here's why this matters so much. AI literacy compounds. When you develop a new skill in a stable domain, you get better at that thing. That's valuable, but it's linear. You put in time, you get better. There's a clear relationship between effort and improvement. But AI literacy is different. Every time you use AI effectively, you learn something about how to use it better. You discover new use cases. You refine your prompts and processes. You develop intuition for when AI will be helpful and when it won't. You build templates and systems that make future use more efficient. This means that early investment in AI literacy pays off exponentially. The person who started building AI literacy a year ago isn't just 1 year ahead of someone starting today. They're multiple years ahead because of compounding learning and refinement. Think about it like investing. If you invest money early, you benefit from compound interest. Your returns generate their own returns. AI literacy works the same way. Your learning enables better use, which generates more learning, which enables even better use, and the cycle continues. This compounding effect is why the gap between AI-literate professionals and AI-skeptical professionals is widening so rapidly. It's not just that one group is more productive today. It's that one group is learning and improving at an accelerating rate, while the other group is standing still. Now, let's talk about what this means for your career specifically. We're entering a period where professional work is being redefined by AI capabilities. The skills that made someone valuable 5 years ago might not be sufficient 5 years from now. Not because those skills are obsolete, but because the baseline expectations are changing. Just like computer literacy moved from being a specialized skill to being a basic expectation over the course of a few decades, AI literacy is going to follow the same trajectory, but much faster. In the near future, being able to leverage AI effectively won't be a differentiator, it will be table stakes. The differentiator will be how skillfully and strategically you use it. And here's the critical insight. This shift is happening right now. We're in the early adoption phase where developing AI literacy creates significant competitive advantage. People who build this literacy now are positioning themselves as leaders rather than followers, as people who shape how work gets done rather than people who adapt to changes made by others. This brings us to an important distinction: the difference between operators and leaders in the age of AI. Operators are people who use AI as a tool to execute tasks more efficiently. They follow established workflows, use AI to speed up their work, and generally apply AI within existing frameworks. This is valuable. Being a highly effective operator with AI is much better than being an operator without AI. But leaders are different. Leaders are people who reimagine how work should be done given AI capabilities. They identify new possibilities that weren't feasible before. They design systems and processes that leverage AI in novel ways. They understand the strategic implications of AI capabilities for their organization or industry. The path from operator to leader goes through deep AI literacy. You can't reimagine work processes if you don't deeply understand what AI can and can't do. You can't identify strategic opportunities if you haven't personally experienced AI's capabilities and limitations. You can't design effective AI-enhanced workflows if you don't have hands-on experience with what works and what doesn't. This is why consistent, thoughtful AI usage over time is so important. It's not just about being productive today. It's about building the depth of understanding that enables you to think strategically about AI's role in your work and your industry. Let me give you some concrete examples of what this leadership looks like in practice. A marketing leader who has deep AI literacy doesn't just use AI to write better copy. They reconceptualize their entire content strategy around what becomes possible when ideation and drafting can happen 10x faster. They identify new content formats and distribution approaches that weren't feasible with traditional processes. They build team capabilities and workflows that fundamentally change what their department can accomplish. A product leader who has deep AI literacy doesn't just use AI to analyze user feedback faster. They rethink their entire discovery and validation process. They identify new ways to test hypotheses and gather insights. They reimagine what's possible in terms of personalization and user experience, when AI can process and respond to individual user contexts at scale. An operations leader who has deep AI literacy doesn't just use AI to automate existing processes. They question which processes should exist at all given new capabilities. They identify opportunities to eliminate entire categories of work that were necessary in the past but might not be necessary anymore. They redesign workflows from the ground up, rather than just optimizing existing ones. This is the difference between using AI within existing frameworks and using AI to create new frameworks. And you can't do the latter without deep, hands-on experience with the former. Now let's talk about something important: the pace of change. AI capabilities are improving rapidly. Models are getting smarter, more capable, more reliable. New tools and applications are emerging constantly. What seems cutting edge today will be standard tomorrow and possibly obsolete next year. This rapid evolution creates both opportunity and risk. The opportunity is that early adopters who stay current with capabilities can maintain a sustained advantage. The risk is that people who don't develop learning agility around AI will fall behind quickly. Here's the key insight. AI literacy isn't just about learning to use current tools well. It's about developing the ability to quickly understand and leverage new AI capabilities as they emerge. Think about someone who has been using AI actively for a year. When a new AI model or tool comes out, they can quickly evaluate it, understand its capabilities relative to what they're already using, identify where it might fit in their workflow, and integrate it if valuable. The learning curve is short because they have mental models for how AI works and how to think about new capabilities. Compare that to someone who is skeptical of AI or using it only occasionally. When a new capability emerges, they're starting from zero. They don't have mental models for how to think about it. They don't have existing workflows to integrate it into. They don't have experience-based intuition for whether it will be valuable. The learning curve is steep. Over time, this difference in learning agility creates an ever-widening gap. The AI-literate professional is continuously expanding their capabilities, while the AI-skeptical professional is continuously falling further behind the frontier of what's possible. This is why starting now matters so much. Even if you feel like you're late to AI, you're not too late. We're still very early in this transformation. But every month you wait, you're missing compounding learning opportunities. Let's talk about what this means practically for your career development. If you're early in your career, AI literacy is an opportunity to accelerate your trajectory. You can produce work quality that typically takes years more experience to achieve. You can take on more complex challenges earlier. You can demonstrate capabilities that make you stand out from peers. This can accelerate promotions, increase opportunities, and build a reputation as someone who delivers exceptional results. If you're mid-career, AI literacy is an opportunity to stay relevant and expand your impact. As work changes around you, you're positioned to lead that change, rather than resist it or struggle to adapt. You can take on leadership roles in reimagining how your function operates. You can mentor others in building AI capabilities. You can become the person your organization turns to for understanding how to leverage AI strategically. If you're late in your career, AI literacy is an opportunity to remain valuable and potentially extend your career impact. Rather than being displaced by younger workers who are digital natives, you can combine your deep domain expertise with AI capabilities to achieve things neither AI alone nor inexperienced workers with AI could accomplish. Your experience becomes more valuable, not less, when combined with AI leverage. At every career stage, AI literacy creates options and opportunities. But it requires investment, not just occasional use, but genuine effort to build deep skill over time. Now, I want to address something important: AI anxiety. A lot of people are worried that AI will make their jobs obsolete or will somehow diminish their value. This is a real concern, and I don't want to dismiss it. But here's what I've observed. The people most worried about AI replacing them are usually the people who are least engaged with actually learning to use it effectively. And the people who are deeply engaged with AI and building genuine literacy are the least worried, because they can see clearly how much human judgment, creativity, and strategic thinking still matters, and actually becomes more valuable, not less, when combined with AI capabilities. The real risk isn't that AI will replace knowledge workers. It's that knowledge workers who effectively leverage AI will replace knowledge workers who don't. This is a crucial distinction. AI isn't going to take your job, but someone who knows how to work effectively with AI might. The competition isn't human versus machine. It's human plus AI versus human alone. And in that competition, the human plus AI combination is going to win every time. This means that the best protection against AI anxiety is AI literacy. Understand it deeply, use it effectively, build genuine skill, and you'll quickly realize that your value isn't diminished, it's amplified. Let me share something personal. When I first started using AI extensively, I had concerns about whether I was becoming less capable, whether I was outsourcing my thinking in ways that would atrophy my skills. These were genuine concerns, but what I've experienced is the opposite. Using AI has made me a better thinker, not a worse one. It's forced me to be clearer about my goals and reasoning. It's exposed me to perspectives and approaches I wouldn't have considered on my own. It's freed up mental energy from routine cognitive work so I can focus on genuinely strategic and creative thinking. It's accelerated my learning in domains where I'm not an expert. I'm more capable now than before I developed AI literacy, not less. And I see the same pattern in every professional I know who has genuinely engaged with AI rather than just experimenting superficially. This is the long-term advantage we've been talking about. It's not just about productivity metrics or time saved. It's about becoming a more effective professional, better at thinking, deciding, creating, and leading. And those capabilities compound over your entire career. So where does this leave us? We're at an inflection point. AI capabilities are real and improving rapidly. The professionals who build deep literacy now will have a sustained advantage over those who delay or resist. The gap between AI literate and AI skeptical professionals will widen over time due to compounding effects. And the nature of professional work is being redefined in ways that make AI literacy not just valuable, but essential. What should you do with this understanding? First, commit to building genuine AI literacy, not just occasional use. This means consistent practice, deliberate skill development, and ongoing learning as capabilities evolve. Second, focus on fundamentals, the principles and mental models that will remain relevant even as specific tools and techniques change. That's what we've covered throughout this entire series. How to think with AI, how to maintain judgment, how to build reliable workflows, how to leverage AI as decision support, how to verify outputs, how to design personal workflows. Third, stay curious and experimental. As new capabilities emerge, engage with them. Try things, see what works. Build your intuition through hands-on experience, not passive observation. Fourth, think strategically, not just tactically. Don't just use AI to do your current work faster. Think about what becomes possible with AI capabilities. Identify opportunities to reimagine processes, explore new approaches, and create value in ways that weren't feasible before. And fifth, share what you learn. Help others develop AI literacy. Build a culture in your organization or professional community where AI skill development is valued and supported. The more people who develop AI literacy, the more we can collectively accomplish. The future of professional work isn't human or AI. It's human and AI, working together in ways that amplify human capabilities rather than replacing them. The professionals who thrive in this future will be those who build deep literacy in how to make that partnership effective. And that journey starts with a decision: to engage seriously with AI, to build genuine skill over time, and to continuously learn as capabilities evolve. Everything we've covered in this series, from treating AI professionally instead of casually, to integrating it into daily workflows, to thinking before prompting, to using it for research and writing, to automating repetitive mental work, to using it for decision support, to building trust through verification, to designing personal workflows. All of it comes together in this long-term vision of AI literacy as a compounding advantage. You now have a complete framework for professional AI usage. You understand the principles that separate effective use from ineffective use. You have practical techniques you can implement immediately. And you understand why this matters not just for today, but for the entire arc of your career. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you treat this as interesting information that you might get around to someday? Or will you commit to actually building AI literacy through consistent, thoughtful practice? Because that choice, the choice between knowing about AI best practices and actually developing AI skills, is what will determine whether you benefit from everything we've discussed or whether this remains theoretical knowledge that never transforms your work. My hope is that you choose action, that you start today, not someday, that you commit to the consistent practice that builds genuine literacy, that you embrace the learning process, including the mistakes and refinements that come with it, and that you stay engaged over the long term, continuously developing your capabilities as AI evolves. If you do that, if you treat AI literacy as a serious professional skill worth investing in, you'll look back a year from now and be amazed at how much your work has transformed. You'll be more productive, more effective, more strategic, and more valuable. and you'll have built capabilities that will serve you throughout your career. That's the promise of AI literacy. Not hype, not magic, but genuine professional advantage built through thoughtful, consistent skill development. And if this video has helped you rethink how AI fits into real work, if you've gained practical insights that you're ready to implement, I'd encourage you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're committed to creating long-form, practical AI guides that go beyond surface-level tips and actually help you build genuine capability. Your support through likes and subscriptions helps us continue producing this kind of in-depth, actionable content. Thank you for investing your time in learning these principles and techniques. Now go put them into practice, build your AI literacy, and create the competitive advantage that comes from mastering this essential professional skill. The future belongs to professionals who can effectively combine human judgment with AI capabilities. Make sure you're one of them.